Time now for our political roundtable. Today we have Republican strategist and pollster Mark Rountree, also an expert on campaigns here in Georgia, and is the founder and president of Landmark Communications, based right here in Atlanta. And Falak Sabbak, the assistant vice president at McGuireWoods Consulting and former executive director of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus. Thank you both so much for returning, both returning panelists. We want to start off with Governor Kemp's top priority this legislative session that both of our newsmakers touched on: tort reform, litigation reform, whatever you want to call it. This week we know that SB 68, part of this plan, did pass the Senate en route to crossover day to head to the House. Governor Kemp is taking a hardline approach on this. Val, I want to start off with you because I know that you are in and out of under the Globe Dome basically every single day. As we look to the House, is this going to be an uphill battle to get this passed? I
don't know about uphill battle, but it is certainly going to be a battle. I think the governor putting his thumb on the scale pretty significantly yesterday,
yeah.
I think that that's going to help out quite a bit. It will be interesting to see how the Republican attorneys in the House, how they deal with this legislation, and if they make any amendments or anything to it.
Yeah, and Mark, we know that Cody Hall told the AJC this week that Governor Kemp is taking a very hard line to this, even almost threatening some endorsements for primaries or just future elections. Why take such a hardline approach here?
Well, this is not one of those kind of issues that is simply ideological. This isn't a Republican-Democrat issue in a simple sense. And this kind of issue is a very strange one for Governor Kemp to have taken on in his final 2 years, because this is the kind of issue that can kind of wrap around the wheels and cause a crash. This is a tough issue.
Why is that, Mark? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think for somebody who's watching this, and maybe they're used to watching other news programs, maybe cable news programs, that a lot of flashy stuff goes on there, and they hear these kind of, some would call red meat issues, social issues that dominate the headlines. This is, in some ways, kind of a inside baseball kind of topic. Why make this the priority?
The hard part about this is actually within the Republican Party. The more MAGA side of the Republican Party is not in love with either corporate giant entity, the insurance company or the trial lawyers. And there is a schism among that group in particular. Among which group? Do you side with some of the libertarian MAGA side, go with the trial lawyers saying, you know, we shouldn't limit our rights, and they kind of go into that. The other side is you have maybe the more establishment Republicans, and then some of the MAGA types that are maybe not quite so libertarian, and they seem to be going in the other direction. So I think the schism is mostly within the Republican Party. I think Democrats are fairly uniform against it, but it's getting this through. You have a very small margin of Republicans that you can afford to lose in the state House. I mean, you lose a dozen of them, and it's probably dead, or close to that, maybe 15 you can afford to lose.
And I'd say that's why we're seeing this. These words come from the governor's office here, Zach.
I'm laying it down.
I want to stay on the topic for just one more moment, because we've talked about a lot of big legislative topics in the session this year. But quickly, Fal, first to you. Is tort reform arguably the most up in the air big topic right now in terms of whether it will get passed by the end of the session?
It's certainly the most pressing one and the most highlighted one. There are a few other bills that have been going through, but nothing like tort reform. Tort reform has really taken center stage. We've heard rumors about sports betting, and it seems we hear about it, and then we don't hear about it, and then we hear about it again. So, I mean, anything is game right now, leading up to crossover day, which will be in about 2 weeks.
We're going to take a pause right here. We'll see you guys on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
Well, welcome back. We are back with our political roundtable here. Let's jump right back in. Georgia was a cornerstone of the presidential campaign in 2024, and now we're seeing in the new Trump administration a lot of Georgia influence in the new cabinet now, right, Mark?
Yes, that is true. And just this week we had Kelly Loeffler being confirmed, and that was, I believe, a 52-46 vote. There was one Democrat that they picked up to vote for that.
And Doug Collins, too.
And Doug Collins, of course, he as well, but he was a couple weeks ago. But yes, so I think Georgia is getting some representation, direct communication with the president.
And Fal, what does that mean when a state has sort of that much face time vis-a-vis their sort of former elected officials with the new president?
I think that that's a great thing for Georgia. I mean, I think that we can get Georgia's priorities front and center. I think that that's something that's going to be beneficial to us as we continue to grow our state and become, continue being the number one state to do business.
I'm going to ask you guys this really quick. We have 30 seconds. Move fast and break things. This is something that we hear in the tech industry, right? Is this what we're seeing with the Department of Government Efficiency? We know that Elon's heading that department. He's a tech guy. And we saw 700 layoffs at the CDC here in Atlanta, foul in the mark.
With billions in proposed cuts already being made and probably lots of billions more coming in as proposals. So, I mean, that is sort of unprecedented in what they're doing. I'd say that is moving fast is an understatement.
And the breaking part is I read the other day that they had fired a bunch of nuclear engineers that they scrambled to rehire because they needed them to be there to figure out what to do. And so I think that part of the moving fast is that they're going to be breaking a lot of things.
We'll certainly see. Thank you both so much. We'll be right back.
Thank you, guys.
After the break.